it's just so useful to have people who you really look up to and really like are inspired by with their music. My dad's got some stuff that I'm like, I still listen to it more than anything else. And my brother's got tons, and most of it's like unreleased because he has so many songs that just like the sheer volume, you can't release them all. Like I have the privilege of having like all the Billy Raffoul demos in my phone. I have like just like hundreds of them.
Yeah, hey Peter. Yeah, I'm Adam. So nice to meet you. I've actually spoken with your brother a couple times on our podcast. So it's cool to hear your side of the story. And I love what you're doing as far as your music as well.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. Thank
Of
you so
course.
much for having me. It's always cool to be somewhere that Billy's been. It's fun. Fun.
Yeah. The first time I had Billy on, it was before COVID, and we actually did it in person when I was living in San Diego at the Hard Rock in San Diego, and then we had him on during COVID too. So we've done one Zoom one as well. But I've recently moved to Nashville. I think. Do you live in Nashville?
I'm in Nashville right now, man. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Where are you at?
I'm south down like in Williamson County area.
Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah.
I'm up north a little bit more. Out the northern side off the highway there.
Oh, cool. Yeah, we love it here. My family and I moved here about 2.5 years ago.
Nice, man.
It's been like the best move we've ever made. I will say that.
I love it more every year, weirdly enough. Like it's like I've been here since 2018, and it's just it's a great place to be home.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's amazing here. And you grew up in Leamington, Ontario?
That's right, man. Yeah, Leamington, Ontario, Canada.
Cool. Well, from what your brother told me about it, it's what, the tomato capital of Canada, I think.
That's it's the tomato capital of North America, actually. Like so.
North America. He told me Canada. So
even if you go, I mean, yeah, Canada included, I guess. But even if you go into like a Publix or a Kroger here and you grab a tomato or a cucumber, they almost like, or a pepper, they almost always say like Sunset Farms or like Mastronardi or Mucci, and those are all like Leamington owned greenhouses and farms.
No way. I'll have to look for
So
that
they make
next
it all
time.
the way down here, man. They and the Heinz factory used to be there as well. So the Heinz ketchup factory was there as well.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I thought that was like in Pittsburgh. I don't remember.
So there's and I don't know the concrete facts here, so I won't just take all the credit to Canada, but there's a debate whether it's Pittsburgh or obviously they have Heinz Field. I mean, it makes a bunch of sense, but there's Pittsburgh, but there was a Heinz factory in Leamington, Ontario. I had so many relatives and family members that used to work there before it became something else, but it was there for a long time.
That's amazing. Yeah, it probably did start there. I mean, especially since all the tomatoes are there. Make more sense.
Makes sense. Yeah.
And then did you guys you grew up in Leamington, but that's not like it's like it's not like in the Lake Erie or anything, right? It's just close to it.
It's basically like right on it. So it's the most southern point of Canada. So like if you were to cross over from Detroit, you actually go south for about 40 minutes to get to where we live, which is like just that literally like that Point Pelee, like Lake Erie spot.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. I have family in Cleveland, and I've never been, but they would go to like Put-in-Bay.
Put-in-Bay was a big thing. Yeah. Put-in-Bay was a big thing for the people where I'm at too, especially the kids that wanted to party a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's what I've heard. It's just like some party island up there in the middle of the Lake Erie.
Yeah.
So you grew up obviously in a musical family. Your dad's a singer-songwriter as well.
Yeah, man.
So how do you start? Like, do you remember going to gig, like see him play live or anything like that as a kid?
Oh yeah. Tons of times. I mean, lucky enough for me and Billy both, he was, and he still is. He's playing like 4 or 5 nights a week. Just doing it the old-fashioned way, doing it. The bars, obviously had his venues in there, and he had some bigger successes that took place. In a certain spot of his career where he was on the radio and he was playing around, and he was doing it the real way. Though he was playing a lot, man, and so we got to see him a ton.
That's so cool. That's
yeah.
Did he kind of influence you to want to start doing music?
I mean, Yeah, I mean, the obvious answer for it is yes, but in a way, he was like so not pushy about anything that
Huh.
it wasn't forced. It wasn't like, oh, you better, get into this. Like, you have to learn an instrument. It was none of those things. Like, he, he would encourage us to like try one. He's like, dude, you're gonna wish you tried one, but he was like that. It was nothing more than that, really. And Billy took to it a lot sooner than I did. He was like he might even have been like 12 or 13, maybe just becoming a teenager when he was like, and maybe even a little earlier than that, to be honest. But he picked up a guitar and kind of was like, yep, I'm doing it, like for sure. And he was just in love with it. And I bounced around a lot more. He's a couple years older than me, and seeing him do it, seeing my dad had already done it, I was like, okay, like I love it and everything, and like I love being around it, and I think it's really cool. But I didn't have the desire to. I wasn't sure that that was like my thing right that early.
Mhm.
I got into it much later. Um, but yeah, he definitely influenced us both to do it, and still does. It's like so inspirational to see how long he's been going at it for, and the commitment to the craft and the constant work is extremely admirable. So we always look at that and go, yep, that's the way to do it.
Yeah. Did you start off on guitar as well?
I didn't, man. I started on a piano, like keyboards. I figured when I finally did decide to like get into it, I'm like, all right, what's a little different? Leamington's not very big, So my dad was he had carved out a pretty good name for himself there, and Billy took off, quite quickly too. And everybody was like, oh, there's, Billy's got a younger brother. There's another one that's kind of starting to play. So I like hid in the back shed with a keyboard until I was like kind of good enough to admit to people that I was actually doing it. Cause I didn't want to like be like, oh, me too. And I didn't want to just like suck. I was so
Yeah.
late to the party as far as like learning how to play and all that. So I started on a keyboard. I'm like, okay, this is a little different. So I was learning little chord shapes and trying to write my own little songs, trying to learn as fast as I could, because once I got really inspired by it, I'm like, man, I got some catching up to do. I gotta really get it. I can't look back now. I can't waste any time now. So keyboard was first, and guitar didn't happen until you know 5 years ago or 4 years, not even probably 4 years ago.
Oh, wow. So with
Yeah,
keyboard, how old are you when you started to or wanted to learn to play and then kind of started writing your own songs?
it's a little foggy to be honest with you, but I think I was older than I'm happy to say. I was probably 18, 17,
Mhm.
17,
That's not
probably
that
18.
still isn't old. I mean, I can't hear what you're saying, but it's like the what you've achieved a lot. If people start at 18, that doesn't mean that they're gonna have a record deal or put out, millions of streamed songs and
Well, and
all that stuff.
that's what I was afraid. I mean, even still, I look back on it and like I'm like, yeah, couldn't have started early enough, because like especially the way that the music world works, like you're like, man, I want to get out, I want to hit the ground running, I want to get everything out there as fast as I can. I want to try and grow this thing, because it's so easy to get caught up or get stuck or have life happen to you, and you get older and you're like, shh, that's I'm not as free to pour myself into something like this. It's such a privilege to be able to do.
Mhm.
And I'm glad I got into it when I did, but I wish it would have been a little earlier. Even still, I think about that all the time. But it all had its own way of
It
working out, I think.
yeah, it all worked out.
Yeah,
So when
yeah,
you were still in Leamington when you were playing or when you started playing?
yeah, man. I started. So I learned a bunch of chords, and had a friend of my dad's who was like a really cool uh, piano player. I mean, she was kick ass. She was awesome, and she came by the house a couple times, and I was like, hey, like, you want to teach me like the cut corner way to learn piano, because I didn't want to learn how to read. So she came over a few times, and we hung out, and she would like just kind of like blow my mind by showing me like stuff that I'm like, I can't even get close to that. But she'd be like, okay, here's the simple version of it. She'd just do three things, and I'd be like, okay, cool. So I took like the four chords that I learned from her, and and then I just used those to start writing songs, man. And just it was kind of like it was. I jumped into it almost too early, but I knew so little that I thought I knew enough.
Uh-huh.
So like looking back on it, like I can't believe I went and played bars like that. Like I went to all the local Leamington bars and got a couple gigs, and then got a few more, and just was taking a keyboard and a microphone to these bars and playing cover songs for like hours. And like looking back, I'm like, it couldn't have been that good, but people seemed to like it enough, and they would come back and hang out and pay me a little bit, you know. So I was like, all right, this is cool. And at the time, I was cutting hair. I was a barber.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I got into that really young. That was the first thing I got into. Before I was doing my first like real like passion or whatever. I was like, I think I want to cut hair. I don't know why. I want to be a barber. So I was a barber and then musician, and then that was like I was like a hybrid of both for like a few years too. It was kind of funny.
Yeah. When you started writing your own songs, would you kind of like put them into your set, like when you're doing these bars and stuff? Like, I mean, mainly covers. Would you kind of just throw in your own stuff every once in a while?
Yeah, I would try, and that's how I started to like sneak them in there. And it's actually kind of funny because like I would like just be hoping that somebody would look over and be like, what song is that? I like that. Like that was kind of how that was like soft launching my music into the world. Like obviously it wasn't like people even then, I know it's crazy, but people weren't like going like recording entire sets of anything. So I was like, okay, this is just like whoever's here is gonna hear this. And I would like have a song I wrote earlier that week and I'd be like, let me try it. And even if I messed it up, no one would know because it's not a real song yet. Like it's nobody's song, you know. So I did that for a while too. Yeah.
When did you like record your first songs to put them out? Was that later, much later down, or no?
Yeah, that was later. That was so eventually I was just doing that you know bar little circuit in the Leamington, Windsor area, you know, a couple things in Toronto or one thing in Detroit or something like that. I started doing enough of those, and then I had a recorded video from a set, just me covering I think a Billy song, ironically enough, but I was just doing a song, you know, one of my brother's songs I think. And we sent the video to a guy in Detroit, a producer, good friend of my dad's, and he was just a really, you know, cool dude. His name is Marlon Young, and he listened to it and he goes, all right, man, well, you want to come in and demo some stuff, and you want to make some stuff, like I really like your voice. I think you sound, you know, you sound like your dad and your brother. You want to come in and see what we get, kind of thing. And we went in there and recorded some stuff, but that stuff never, you know, that was really soon and early on too. So that stuff was kind of a good, like, you know, launch pad spot for for me to like learn how to be in a studio and learn what kind of music I wanted to make and learn how, what kind of artist I was going to be. And, you know, it's still an ongoing thing that you always are trying to figure out what you're, you know, what you're going for. Right. But then I was really trying to figure it out. It was really, really early on. And the music, the demos that we created had some magic to them, and they got further along, and somebody was able to hear them at a label and say, hey, you know, like, let's develop this further. Let's develop you further. Let's see what else you can, you know, let's put you in like the boot camp or whatever, you know, like not literally, but like let's see how this goes. And things started to kind of fall into place. The more I worked at them, the more I tried to write and become an individual artist. And the label saw something that they liked, and they were happy to kind of initiate me growing that stuff, you know.
And were you still living in Leamington, or at what point did you move down to Nashville?
And that was the point. It was probably after that studio stuff that we did with Marlon and Al and Herschel. Those guys were in Rust Belt Studios, and that's in Michigan. And we, after those demos kind of went, and the label saw them and said, hey, like, we want to develop you, we want to, you know, do this and that. And that was when the move to Nashville happened after that, to try and be closer to the writing and the songwriting and the artist development kind of stuff, you know what I mean? Something that I don't know if it happens as much anymore. I feel like everything is so streamlined. Like that's, I'm sure that still does happen, but not exactly in that format. I feel like it was like I know it wasn't that long ago, but it feels like one of those more old school ways of something coming about. And because now everything just feels so streamlined. Something gets found and they can develop it from, you know, what they found on their iPhone. So it was a little bit, I think it was a little bit before the craze of like TikToks and Instagram reels and stuff like that. It was a little bit before that.
So once you got down to Nashville, you just started demoing songs and just really focused on writing and developing your sound and everything?
Pretty much, man. I was just like, I had all this inspiration from so many different things as like a teenager to like when I started playing and singing and writing. I had so many of these different like inspirations that I wanted to touch on, and in my head it made a bunch of sense. But when like I didn't have the tools to apply it yet, like I was like,
Mhm.
oh, I know I love this and this and this, and how do I amalgamate that? How do I make that like a fleshed out sound that is what I'm going for, who I want to be? So that took a while because like I had the intention, but the application was like so felt like it was out of reach at first, obviously, because I was just so new to everything. And then eventually just being in sessions around here with like some really talented writers and producers and things like that, you get, if you pick up one thing from each session, you're building a, you know, bit of a launch pad. You're building like a way to do it. You're understanding more, you're grabbing tools from these people. And that's what I did. And then eventually after doing that, you know, mix a pandemic in there somewhere. And
Oh yeah, yeah. Were you in Nashville before the pandemic?
yeah, and the
Oh
development
wow.
had like I was doing all the writing and all the getting things together and trying to figure out what kind of artist I was gonna be. And then that kind of hit and that kind of like screeched some stuff. Obviously, you're like, okay, I'm not really work. We started Zoom writing and all that stuff. And when we came out of that, I'm like, okay, I think we're ready to go. You know, we're ready to start here. So we were able to start with some material that I'm like, I believe in this, and this is, you know, I had to let go of something being perfect. I had to let go of something being like exactly uh, what I thought was, you know, like, I don't know, you leading up to releasing music, you like romanticize like so much, and you think like so much about what's gonna come of it,
Mhm.
and eventually you just had to be like, I think this is like I know I love this. I have to just, you know, put it out. So that was that point.
And you put out Bad for Me. Was that the first song you did?
That was the third song. So there's
Oh,
a
third
song.
song.
Yeah, so there's a song called. Am I allowed to swear on here? I don't want to be swearing.
Yeah, you can swear.
All right. There's a song called. It's in the title. So there's a song called "Fucked Up Together" that was the first tune, and it
Oh,
was
that
a
was the first song. Okay, I didn't
yeah.
realize that was your first song.
So and that was a really. I'm happy that was the choice that was made. It's a piano vocal.
Mhm.
It's a live performance with some guys here in Nashville who produced it, who produced that whole first EP. I told them like, hey, I really want to do the first one live. I want to do it like really, really demo-y and like just let it be what it is. I feel like it'll be a good way to make a good first step to take if this thing comes off as like very honest and straightforward. And then we did the cigarette holes thing was second, and then Bad for Me was third.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I guess I got those. I thought it was in the reverse
Yeah, because
direction.
yeah. The way they're listed is, you know, one of them's got a few more streams than the other one, so it goes up there.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. I mean, those are to come out of the gate with those. I mean, those are great songs, and you must have gotten validation pretty early on. The fact that like, oh, this is good. People are,
I
responding to what I'm
was
doing.
I can't complain. I'm really blessed with that. I was really lucky with the way that they were received and the reception they got. I think people were anticipating it for a little while. I had been maybe patient to a fault for a second, but at the same time, I don't regret it. I think it was smart to just like have, you know, I mean, to have written my first song somewhere around 18 years old, and then to have my first one, or, you know, my first ever song, 18 or 19 years old, have my first one come out like 5 years later, 6 years later. That's not bad for me, you know, because most people are 13 and then they put out music when they're 18 or 19. So I'm like, all
Right.
right, you know, so it felt the same. I'm like, all right, I think I exhausted this like starting point enough, and I think I've battled with what I wanted to sound like enough. Let's start. And
Mhm.
I couldn't have been happier. I'm like, great. Yeah, the first three were really well received. People were getting into it, and it was starting to reach a couple fans that obviously I never had before. I was like, cool, cool.
Yeah. And so you were doing this from Nashville during the pandemic. I think when I talked to your brother, he was back in Leamington. I think he was living with his girlfriend, or like he wrote a whole album at their house or something. It was just a couple blocks down the road from where you guys grew up, I believe.
That's true, man. He did. So he and like we're always gonna believe and feel that Canada and Leamington is home. Like
Right.
that's where, you know, that's where that's where I started writing my songs. That's where I still feel the most inspired. That's where I still feel the most at home, and that'll never change. And I think the pandemic hit, and yeah, he had, you know, with his girlfriend there, they have those ties. So he was like, okay, great. And it made sense for him to be there. And the guy just pumps out music like a machine. He's just so inspired all the time. And he's writing songs like crazy. And it's inspiring to me, obviously. And that's, it's a big part of why I do it too. But yeah, he wrote a whole album and he's like, this is great. Like, we're going to record it, very, very DIY style. We're going to do this. And he was at her place, and it is 2 blocks from our place. And he did that whole thing during the pandemic. I was here in Nashville. I have a girlfriend. I stayed here. I got more of that going on here. So I was like, okay,
yeah.
4 blocks to the house in our respective places.
Sure. Okay. So I was wondering if you stayed, because I remember he said he went back to Leamington. Did you, like, when you were writing these songs, even early on, were you kind of reaching out to him or your dad, or just kind of being like, oh, hey, this is what I'm doing, like, what do you think? Like, do you have any notes, or can you help me? Or was there any part of that?
Oh my God. Yeah. I was even hesitant to show them. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So, but they were it's just so useful to have people who you really look up to and really like are inspired by with their music. My dad's got some stuff that I'm like, I still listen to it more than anything else. And my brother's got tons, and most of it's like unreleased because he has so many songs that just like the sheer volume, you can't release them all. Like, I have the privilege of having like all the Billy Raffoul demos in my phone. I have just hundreds of them. And yeah, so I used to send him stuff and be like, but I was sparse about it because I wanted to take it seriously. I knew how good some of the stuff that they had created was.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I don't want to just be sending them stuff that I don't think is special, even to the space I was at. Like, I'm like, I know I'm not there yet. What do you think? And I would send it when I was really like trying to make it work. I wouldn't send them half ideas or little, things that I was okay with. I had to be like really excited about it and be like, now tell me, so that way I was bringing him what I thought was my best stuff. But I used to do it often. I used to send it to my dad or brother. And there was this little shed behind our house when I was living in Leamington where I wrote all my songs. It's like this, I don't know, it's like the most magical place on the planet to me, but it was this little 2-story shed that didn't have any running water or anything in it. It was just like little heating, window air conditioner. Like, that was the whole thing. And we used to hang out there as kids, and it was a art studio for my mom once upon a time, and it was a music studio for my dad once upon a time, and it was a place for us to get up to no good as teenagers with our buddies. Like, it was a lot of different things, but eventually it became like the place where I wrote my songs. And I'm like, oh my God, I never want to leave this room. And I used to sit up there and start writing my songs. So occasionally my dad would pop back out from the house. He'd walk back up there and I'd be like, all right, what do you think? And I'd play him something that was really, at the time special to me, but it was, looking back on it, probably pretty elementary, pretty basic. But he would be like, okay, cool. And sometimes I could tell that I would impress him a little bit. I'm like, okay, I think we're on the right track, thanks. But I definitely bounced things off them tons.
With the EP you released last year, were any of those songs written in the shed, or no? But that was too early on.
Let me see here. Yeah, one of them was. At least one of them was, and I don't know exactly which one, but like, so I think that some of them in their conception started there, and some of them were. One of them was a co-write with my brother Billy, and I believe it started when we were back in Leamington. It was I Just Want to Be Okay. That's back there, I believe, and then all the artwork and the first music video for the Fucked Up Together video. If you're on any that's me sitting on the roof of that place.
Oh, that's the shed. Okay.
So
I watched the video. That's crazy.
It's just this little back. It's just, we called it the shed. It was just a little back house with nothing in it. It was just like a little, like, so the origin story of it is like the people that owned the house before. It's just so crazy, but they owned the 3 beside it too, and they had like hundreds of cats. They had hundreds of cats between these 4 houses, and this used to be the like way back. The house is like 100 and something years old. The house is very old. But apparently there used to be like cats that were like in between all those houses, I guess. And then eventually they built that way later on in the back, and it was like a cat place. I don't know. It was like, I don't know what it took. Then it got renovated by the owners that owned it before us. And it was like more of like a functional storage spot or whatever. But then we used it as, and then after that, it got renovated a little bit further. So just like the steps the place took are hilarious. I don't know exactly how it became to be so special to us, but it was like, we just used it for everything, man.
That's
and now
so
like
rad.
I've used it further. And I think he's like turned it into like a legit, like he put the sink in, he put the kitchen in, he put the, the whole thing in it. So it's now become something that's more of a functional living space.
Wow, that's rad. So now it's an Airbnb. No, I'm just kidding.
Pretty much, pretty much. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. I'll have to go. I recently watched the video for that song, so I want to go back and now put an image to this shed that you wrote these songs in. So I just want to be okay. Was a co-write with your brother? Was that the only song you worked with him on that EP that you put out?
Writing wise, yes, but studio tracking wise, no. So 2 guys here in Nashville, Henry Brill and Owen Lewis, produced the record. They're great. They're awesome dudes. I can't say enough about them. Like, I just love those guys. They were we were working at a studio here producing all those songs, and I just knew, I'm like, I'm not making this record without Billy, like as far as like he's my guitar player for this record, or I want him in the studio for one reason or the other. Like he was so close to the project, he's so close to me. I'm like, I know he's going to be able to give some input here that I'm going to want. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we wrote one of the songs together, but he played guitars on like the whole record basically. There's a couple where I'm playing guitar, like but the stuff that I'm like, hey Bill, come in and do this, or he sang harmonies on, so he's singing harmonies on Fucked Up Together, he's singing harmonies on I Just Want to Be Okay, he's singing harmonies on Cigarette Holes. He's on a bunch of stuff, man.
Oh,
he's
cool.
So and that was like obviously such an honor for me to have him be a part of it. And mm-hmm. Moving forward, it's more and more of an occurring thing where where I'm on his stuff, we're writing together, and he's singing on my stuff, and it's kind of cool, man.
That's really cool. I love the new songs that you've been putting out too. And it's definitely, there's some elements that aren't in the earlier songs. Like you've got like distorted guitar in a couple of the new songs that I've noticed.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I loved what you were, on that, everything you did on that EP and prior, but I feel like now like this newer stuff is a lot. Some of it's a bit quicker. Some of it has the crunchy guitars. Like, Help was the first one I heard that had that on there, and that was, I think, the first one you released after the EP.
Yeah, after the EP, that was the first thing, and we had like a 3-song batch of songs after the first EP that we felt pretty strongly about. Help, Missing You, and Thought You Should Know. Billy and I wrote 2 of them together. So we wrote Help together, and we wrote Thought You Should Know together. With a friend Mike on the second one, but we were in the studio and we're like, okay, let's see. And like every song has so many options. You can make everything stripped down, and you can do so much of, but we got into a very experimental space with 3 of those songs, and we're like drums, bass, like you said, some distorted guitars. Like we kind of went for it with a couple of the songs, and I listened back and I'm like, oh, these are really, we were into a certain spot at that point. And I love what we ended up with. It was very cool. Definitely, like, I remember them as a moment in time now because of what we committed to with them, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're really cool. And then you have a new one out, Book Club.
And I went back the other way for that one. I was
gonna say that one's a little bit more stripped back than those other 3.
and that's the like the whole like this of being it, like on the artist side of things. I took the start of a song I was writing to a friend here in Nashville, a co-writer. His name's Tony Esterly, great dude. And I brought him this little thing that I was saying about, if you wrote books, I'd start a book club or something like that. Or I was just I thought it was witty, but it was dumb. But anyway, I was like, okay, cool. This is cool.
I like it.
Yeah, he liked it. He liked it. He's like, let's go with it. I'm like, all right. He's the guy to bring a weird idea to. He's like cool like that. And he's like, all right, I love it. Let's go. I'm like, okay, cool. So we worked that. And then I'm like, I think I want to just do it, and he agreed. We just did it live, so that's like a live, like guitar and vocal at the same time thing, which is basically the exact same thing as Fucked Up Together. Like I don't know how, almost 2 years later, we went back to this like live tracking, demo sounding thing, and then we just added a couple of guitars in the little bridge part, and we're like, all right, that's it, man. There's like nothing on it.
Oh wow. Yeah. So you really
Yeah.
went back to the kind of the original way you did stuff.
Yeah, I was playing the song on tour so much. The new one before it was released, I was playing it on tour, and I started to really fall in love with the way that the the song was flowing live, and people really seemed to be receiving it well. It was really well received. People are saying, "Hey, I like that song a lot. Is it out?" People were DMing me or messaging me or commenting on things saying, "When's book club coming?" I'm like, okay, we created something that people are interested in, and it's authentic, and let's not overthink it. So we just didn't put anything on it. We like did it like a demo and released it.
Wow. And you just got off tour, right? A couple weeks ago, or not? A few
Yeah,
weeks.
man. I just got back from touring with Joe P.
Yeah.
Atlantic. He's a Jersey kid. He's awesome, man. Him and his band are. I can't say enough about them too. They were so cool. His whole team was awesome, and the shows were insane. Like I'm a fan of his music genuinely. So it was really cool to go on tour with him.
Yeah. Now that you're back, and I mean, you just put out book club. Do you have more music, or you've been working on more songs, or like what do you have coming up?
Yeah, man. I'm writing more again now. Still looking for the next tour. Looking to get back on the road. That's been so much fun this year, and I'm like, I couldn't do it enough this year. I'm really into it right now, and it comes and goes in ways where you have like a bunch of writing time and a bunch of time to promote a release, or you're on tour, or you're doing all of them at once. But right now I'm in like a writing mode. I got a show coming up in Toronto with Billy in like in I don't know 2 weeks from today. So
Oh wow.
heading back to Toronto to do a show there and do some recording there as well. Actually, I'm commissioning my brother for some free labor. I'm going to make him record it. Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome. Have you guys played together? I mean, I'm sure you have, but have you done like a proper show like that before?
I would say this is the most official of them all. We're always at each other's shows, and I'm like, I'm gonna bring Billy up here. Oh, I'm gonna bring Peter. So we do
Yeah.
that all the time. Or my dad will be like noticing that we're at the bar, and he'll be like, "I'm taking set 3 off tonight, kids. Like, you guys are playing." Like,
Oh wow.
oh yeah, he'll see us, and he'll be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna have my son play a couple," and he'll just pass the guitar, and he'll be like, "I'm done this long enough. You guys can finish my set for me."
That's rad.
Yeah, he'll do that to us every now and then, and we'll all play together here and there, a few songs or a set or something wherever we're at if somebody's got a gig. But this will probably be the most formal. I'm kicking off the show for him. I got a 30 or 40 minute set or whatever it is, and then he's coming on, and we have another kid. His name's Eric Punzo. He's awesome. He's a Canadian artist, and he's going to be on playing as well. And we're doing that at the Phoenix in Toronto on June 9th, man. Yeah, I'm excited about it.
That's amazing. When are you going to put out a record, just the three of you, your brother and your dad and you?
I feel like it's inevitable. I feel like it's inevitable. That's so fun. You know what? Actually, this thing that I'm going home to record is this new idea that I'm working on, and I'm like, you know what? Maybe it might be the time to get Jody's vocals on there too. Like, just
Yeah.
even if they're just in there for to make me and Billy sound worse. I don't know. He's a good singer, man. We gotta be careful where we use him.
Yeah. I think your brother covered one of his songs on one of his latest, I think his latest album, right?
He did, man. Yeah, he did. That Simple Life record of my dad's is something that me and Billy go back to constantly, drawing inspiration from it. It's a live acoustic record that my dad did when he was probably, I want to say like 30, but some of the songs are from when he was even younger. Maybe he was, some of the songs are from as young as his 20 years,
Wow.
19 or 20. So, but it's a very cool record to especially be our age listening to now, doing the same thing that he was doing. It's a very inspiring record. So we go back to it all the time. I cover one or two of his when I'm on the road as well. When
That's
it
awesome.
feels right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, I can't wait to hear the Jody, Peter, and Billy project that you guys put together. But
Well, I love it. I love it.
well, I appreciate your time today, Peter. Thank you so much for doing this. I love what you're doing. And I appreciate your time. This has been a lot of fun to hang out with you.
Thanks so much for having me, man. Anytime. I really appreciate it.
I have one more question before I let you go. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
That's a great one. Yeah, just trust yourself. I know it sounds so cliche, but like really trust yourself. I feel like, it's got to come from you. So you can hear a bunch of different inputs and people telling you what you need to be, and oh, this would work if it sounded like this, and they start to kind of, you know, give you a little bit of a box to live in, and I think that's not good. I think just it has to come from you. Trust yourself. Obviously, you can get some input from some people that you really trust, but you have to trust yourself the most when it comes to the music. Just do what you believe in, and I think that will come across the best.